All right, so I'm going to talk about this for a minute before I go inside. Um, you know, I try to share this stuff because I think someday when I'm gone or older, maybe YouTube will still be around and my kids will watch this. And reflection, like you might, if you love your mom or dad, right? If you could watch some stuff. Now I don't have any archives, so I'm like, let me just post some stuff here along the way. My little daughters watch this more than the older boys, but it's just because they're young and they just like giggle watching their daddy do a video. So the relevance of this today versus 20 years from now is what's important to me, versus like what the share price of Tesla is. I keep saying, like, that's fun stuff for me, but the lessons in life I think are what more important. So there was a movie, it was called I, Robot. I think it was called Will Smith. And there was like this hologram of the doctor, the professor that would keep showing up for Will Smith, and he'd ask him a question, and the doctor, the professor would say, you're not asking the right question, or something like that. And it was like sort of interacting with this robot hologram. You know what I mean? So that was my kind of thought with the idea of how I felt or a challenge I went through if I'm not around, or if somebody else just needs to hear it. So here's the thing I want to talk about. I was recently talking about some really difficult things that I was going through in a variety of things, just a variety of things. Now you can fill that mixing bowl with whatever you want. It could be stuff at work. It could be businesses off. Could be a deal you lost. Could be an argument with a family member or a spouse. It could be a business venture that went. I mean, all those things are kind of irrelevant right now. But I had a rough month, 2 or 3 weeks especially. But I keep showing up. And this is the lesson that I learned and that I want to pass along to you. Whatever it is you're doing, like if you're here because you're a trader, you're a day trader, swing trader, and you're just looking for some input or some connection of stocks, options, cryptocurrencies, and then maybe, the other thing I really am passionate about is the real estate stuff, more so, and self-investing, right? Like how can I be better? And you bounce stuff off each other, right? You test each other. But, when I look back and I think of all the things I've been through, because each of us have our own story, and if you're one of my children who I love dearly, you have your own story, and I can't live it. But or if you're your own individual, wherever you are in life, whether you're older than me, younger than me, I want to see you succeed. I mean, there's nothing better than hearing a success story, and more so when you've gone through some tough things in life. So when you go through the tough things, and I'm going to kind of tie all this together, but if I go take a cold shower, and I mean by a cold shower, I mean like ice cold as it can go, and I have forced myself to immerse myself in this uncomfortable situation. I have yet to jump into an ice plunge, but I plan to, right? I plan to. There's a Lifetime Fitness in Peabody that my buddy goes to. I go to the one in Burlington. He said there's a couple there, right? Versus me going out and buying one, which I will. But I want to do it a couple times. So I'm going to go there and do it, and I know it's going to be incredibly painful or uncomfortable at least. But I think that when we do these type of things, certain things that have good benefits for us, but are extremely uncomfortable and foreign to like, whoa, what's this? It's tough to condition yourself to do this stuff. So it's whether you're trading stocks and you're like, oh, it's pulling back, and you panic and you want to sell, or you're not committed to your long-term plan. If you have a plan when you enter a trade, which can get changed, or if you have a family member or a friend or a coworker or somebody that does something that you're like, what are they doing, right? Or if a business deal goes a certain direction, your emotions, your initial reaction is just like jumping in that cold water where you're like, like just, it's kind of a shock or like uncomfortable thing. But if you know that doing this is going to benefit you and you're going to get stronger and better and you can hang in there, there's good things that will come of that. I try my best to endure whatever hardships I'm going through and shut my mouth. That's, for me, is the most difficult thing, is to not vent out. I'll vent out my frustration. Meaning, like, I don't think it's good for you to bottle up anger or frustrations or emotion. I think you got to deal with it, whether you talk to somebody, whether you go work out, whether you go for a run, whether you go for a ride. I don't know, something. You go hiking, you play with your dogs, you go laugh with some good friends. You got to do something that is positive, something that lifts you up. Go to church, right? Get around good fellowship, people like that, people that are not, the church people. There's nothing wrong with that. I believe in that, but you can find good people in your life. There's somebody, and if not, then you got to look for them, because when that happens, even though you're going to continue to go through this, right? Even though you're going to continue to go through some really tough things, on the other side of that, you might get a 10x reward. Not to be like Grant Cardone at 10x, but it could be a 10x. It could be a 100x. You might get more. You might get blessed way more than the pain that you endured for that season, where you're like, oh man, I went through this couple weeks or this couple months, or maybe it's longer, right? And then the other side of that, because I kept showing up with a positive mindset, even though I wasn't feeling positive, and I kept showing up in general, because it's easy to quit. It's easy for us to give. I've done that before. It's just, I'm done, throwing the towel, I'm out. It's harder to keep showing up. There is another movie I'll reference. It's called The Bronx Tale, where Robert De Niro's character, who plays the father of I forget his name, but the kid there, and he was saying that the gangster guy, which was Sonny, was going, oh, the working man's the sucker, and De Niro's character says, no, he's not the sucker. He's the one that keeps showing up. He's the one that does it day in, day out. He's the tough guy. He's the one that keeps, going on. He's not taking the easy route, right? And I believe that. It stuck with me, that little scene there, just like, certain scenes in movies or passages in the Bible, or certain things that people said to me over the years. Like, you get angry, you lose, right? Like, just little things that stick with you throughout your life. They go, man, they become very true as you keep living, right? You keep living. So my only share for you today is, if you're going through something difficult, whatever that looks like for you today, right? Whether you're younger or older, whatever the scenario might be, I can tell you that it may not work out. It may not be a pleasant experience, right? There's nothing that's going to maybe make it easier for you to go through physically, financially, spiritually, emotionally, whatever it is that you're dealing with. But I can tell you, for me, a lot of times when I was able to ignore that, like not ignore and stuff it down, I dealt with that separately. But if there was something I needed to do, right, I'd face it like the cold shower, right? I would show up, and I'll leave with this, because I have time. I had a customer that come in, and I was given one example of 1,000 examples. I had one customer come in my office, and there was absolutely no real benefit to me, right? I wasn't going to benefit from it. There was going to be some work that I had to do, a missed opportunity maybe to make more money, for the reason I show up for work. And also, it just put me in a soury mood. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted to, one of my buddies, tells me all the time, he goes, you have a horrible poker face. Like, I know when you're upset or angry. Like, you could see it in my face, my facial. My wife says the same thing. I could see it in your face. The little things. She says the tiniest thing. Like, if I go, oh, what's wrong? Like, there's this, they're able to read it very easily. And I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. So it's really tough for me to mask certain things. Like, if I'm not happy about something, or it's usually very evident. So I don't want to portray that in certain situations, right? If it's a business deal, and if somebody knows I'm going through something, like, they might say, oh, what's wrong? And they get a bad vibe. If a customer comes in, and it's not going to benefit me at all, it's just my job, I don't want them to feel like bad, right? I don't want them to go like, oh, what's his problem, right? So I just try to smile. I try to listen. I don't have to talk much, right, and make it evident. I just try to listen more and give them eye contact and throw a smile in there, right? Like, not a fake. I try to smile, be genuine, because that's what I want. That's the guy I want to be. And you will be surprised. I had an opportunity come up where I was talking. I recognized the street, the place where they had been, and I mentioned, hey, I was buying a property over in that area, and we just started talking about it. And they were telling me all kinds of information about that area that I didn't know. And then in the pleasant conversation, they mentioned, hey, me, like that, the guy and his wife, the guy and his wife were saying that our neighbors, 3 other neighbors, were approached by a syndication to buy all 4 houses. They're going to tear it down and build this big condominium plex, but it fell through in the last minute because one of the people died, right? And it kind of threw things off. And we really don't want to sell. We've been there for 25, 30 years. So, but so-and-so really would love to sell, right? I was like, oh. And what I had said is I don't plan to tear things down in this area, which was Boston. I would prefer to just renovate and rent, right? And that is my intent. Now, down the road, something might change, but that is what I'd like to be a man of my word. If you do that, other people hear that and see that, and they go, yeah, he did or she did what they said, right? They didn't just say that to get their way, right? So I was talking to my family, my kids, and everything, and these people really liked that, and I forgot about the other stuff, and we were just having a great conversation. And what that led to was, regardless of what happens with this other property I mentioned, now I have a second opportunity because they said, Sally, whatever the person's name was, we're going to tell her about you, and can we have your car with your cell phone because you would buy and you wouldn't tear down. Right? I said, no, I wouldn't tear down. I want to be in that area. I want to rent. I want to keep it in my portfolio and a legacy for my kids, and I hope they never sell and they just keep adding because when that was the conversation. And they loved it. And I wasn't just giving them BS. That was like genuine, authentic, from the heart stuff. And that may lead to another opportunity. And that's what I'm trying to convey here is regardless of what it is you're experiencing or going through, if you can just show up and have a positive mindset, just those 2 little things, other good things will happen. I really believe that. I mean, if you can just muster the strength. Deal with your other things, however you need to deal with it. Go for a run, talk to someone that cares, that will give you good advice, good encouragement. Go hit a heavy bag, do push-ups till you pass out. I don't know, whatever it might be, do something. Sometimes what I do is I go to the gym. This is something I do. I'm not a shredded athlete, right? But I will go to the gym. I'll work out for 45 minutes, feel like I've accomplished something. I'll get some exertion in, right? And then I'll go to the steam room or the sauna. Usually the steam room, I like it a little better. And I'll take a shower, and a cold shower, right? And I feel awesome, and I always feel better. It may not have solved all the problems, but it puts me in like a good place. And then that is apparent, right? Instead of just carrying around all this heavy stuff. Well, whatever it is you're dealing with, whatever it is you're going through, okay? So that's it. This will be a short one today. I don't have much to say. The market is closed today. It is President's Day as I do this, 2023, February 20th. But that's my feeling. So I hope that helps a little bit, and I'll see you guys next time.